Welcome back to Podcasting Raw Nerdy. I'm Dat Nerd ADC, and we don't got Brandon 2K today. For some of you guys who may know a little bit about my history, this is a blast from the past, and what better way to start 2025 than looking at where we've gone? And I got a co-host today who really reminds me of where I've gone and where we've been. And some of you guys who followed us from where I'm speaking of may know what's going on here. But I will let my co-host do a little introduction himself. Uncle Black, great to see you, man.
I am that one and only Uncle Black from ENN, Entertainment Nerd News. We are still out there doing many different things, but I am that one and only Uncle Black, a.k.a. Black Stradamus. And I got a new one, Incognegro.
Love it, man. That's hilarious. I love it.
That's my new one. I have not really pushed that one out forward a lot. You see my turtles out over there in the background. But yes, I am Uncle Black, one of the many hosts of Entertainment Nerd News. We do a lot of stuff. A lot of gaming lately. If you want to catch me, I am on TikTok as Shafto9. I am doing a lot of gaming. Just finished Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 4. My next thing is going to be Flight Simulator. Yeah, I don't know how deep down that rabbit hole I am going to go, but I am excited for Flight Simulator. But let's where you been? Let's get to it. Let's just get down to the nitty-gritty.
So 2024 was a wild year. There was some good, there was some bad, and we're here to talk about everything in between. So what we're going to do in this episode, we're going to have a top 5 best comic book and TV show properties and top 5 worst comic book movie and TV show properties. So this will be separated into 2 parts, 2 episodes reviewing pressure. And let's not be a Debbie Downer. Let's start with best. I want to start with best. Is that cool with you, Uncle Black?
That is cool. I got my number 1.
Okay, so we're going to go from 5 to 1. So at the end of the episode, you're going to know what we enjoyed the most about 2024. I'm going to start with my number 5. And my number 5 only gets number 5 because you guys will hate me if I put it at number 1 because it came at the tail end of the year. And that's Creature Commandos. I am loving Creature Commandos. And I almost put it at number 1, but I know I get so much hate from you nerds. So much hate from the community. Being like, what are you talking about? It came out in December. And I understand that. And how it's still going in 2025. We're not done with it yet. So I put it at number 5 because the first episode just hooked me. Second episode, I'm in. Third episode, I'm giving it more. And 4th episode, I'm like, oh, I'm about to splurge, take my money. So this is where I'm at with number 5. Creature Commandos is my number 5. Uncle Black, what's number 5 on your list for 2024?
And this is one that was sleeper.
Watchmen. That was 2024?
That was 2024, August 13th, 2024. Watchmen Chapter 1.
Ooh, okay.
That was a sleeper, and I'll be honest, it's one of those things that it excites me. It's a retake on Watchmen. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to say it excites me to see a different view than Snyder's on Watchmen. That is where it's at for me. It's not Snyder, it's still Watchmen, but it's a different, that's all I'm going to say.
I feel you, man. And you almost got a nerd rant out of me, which I am famous for, going off the handle. And Brandon 2K is usually pretty good at doing that to me. And back in my entertainment nerd days, Uncle Black would be the guy who'd trigger me. But speaking of nerd rants, if you guys have been following us on social media, we decided to roll with nerd rants in 2025. So in 2025, we're allowing you to rant. 90 seconds uninterrupted for our guests who can just rant about whatever they want. And then we'll follow up with how we feel about your rant. The first person on deck is coming up. We've got our first guest for 2025. He will be announced soon. If you're local to Kansas, local to the Wichita, Kansas area, and are into science, you'll know him very, very well. If you're into planes, if you're into space, you will know him very, very well. Wichita is the air capital of the world for a reason, and we got a lot of great people here in the Wichita area who speak on those things. And he already told me that his nerd rant is going to be around planes, you guys. So he's probably going to school me, and Uncle Black's probably going to be listening right into that.
You said space. You had me at space.
If you're into, if you know about the STEM community, STEM, and that's, teaching our youth about science and technology, you'll know him very well, especially if you're from this area. Hopefully, maybe Uncle Black will be on the episode. He'll probably dive deep into this guy. I'm not ready to say his name yet, but it'll be announced within the next week or so.
Well, I'm excited to hear that.
But going on to my number 4. My number 4 of 2024 rhymes, don't hate the player, hate the game bars, is Agatha all along. And some of you guys are like blasphemy that should be higher because it's one of the biggest things of 2024 for some people. But it only gets to number 4 for me because I struggled. It almost made my top 5 worst. But I allowed it because I took myself out of it a little bit and understood what other people are feeling about it. So I put it in good conscience, speak for a community and give a community a voice and put out my worst, but I had to put it low on my best. I found myself very bored with the Scarlet Witch IP. I found myself very annoyed by the Scarlet Witch character and the lore, but we got Wiccan, we got all these cool things in Agatha all along, and I know where Uncle Black's coming from. Did we actually get Wiccan? It's a blasphemy of the character. I understand all these things, but it introduced some cool concepts that I think that the MCU is going to go forward with. I think I see Young Avengers coming out of this. So that's why it got my number 4. Uncle Black, I can see you want to say something here. How do you feel about my number 4? Then get into yours.
That's on a different list for me.
It's probably on your worst.
It really, yeah. My number 4, I'm going to get some hate for this one. I'm going to get a lot of hate for my number 4. Joker.
No, I figured, but wow.
Okay. Although it's a music, if you dig deep into the mythos of Arthur Fleck, is he really the Joker? No. He is under the Red Hood, the original Red Hood. And at the end of, you have to hang through that whole movie to get your fix. When the first movie came out, it wasn't named The Joker. It was just named Joker. And you saw how the people of Gotham clung to the idea of the Joker.
Yeah.
You see how Harley Quinn, and spoilers, clung to the idea. And is she Harley Quinn? Well, maybe, because she did have a degree. How she clung to the idea of the Joker, but then maybe within the last 30 minutes, he's like, no, I'm not the Joker, I'm Arthur Fleck. But if you watch the last 5 minutes of the movie, what do we see? Someone telling him a joke, someone giving him the shank, and then cutting his face. And I don't care what anybody says that it's not tied to the Dark Knight movies. No. That is the Joker who took the idea of what Arthur Fleck started, and he's running with it, and we got to see the actual real Joker in the Dark Knight movie. We didn't get a Harley Quinn, but the fact is the Joker started out as an idea, as this image of something that the people of Gotham needed and wanted, and someone else took the ball and rolled with it and turned it into his actual persona of being the Joker. And this is what the people want, and this is what I am. And I'm killing anything to do with the original idea because I'm going to envelop it. Had Heath Ledger still been alive, can you imagine what we would have gotten and how they would have tied this in better? So that's why, and the soundtrack. My God, the music, it's not like we're creating new music for it. It's great music. So as much as it gets hate, I'm going to put it at number 4.
I can already see the comments down below and leave them. This is the discussion. Things like this, opinions happen. And Uncle Black, yeah. But because I love the first Joker, but you'll see later on. Number 3 on my list is Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, the animated movie. That's what I'm talking about. The animated. Some DC animation. I
Okay.
loved it. I loved it. To me, DC animation does not miss. I can make a whole list of best for DC animation, but Justice League Crisis or Part 2 is
Yeah.
got number 3. And I think we're agreeing on something here. It almost got higher. But I end up putting it at number 3. We guys who have rocked with me all these years, I'm a DC guy. I like Marvel stuff, but I lean toward DC, and I watch this on repeat a lot. It has rewatchability. But yeah,
does.
Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Part 2.
Okay. My number 3, X-Men 97.
I have not dabbled into that, but I've heard it's good. Okay.
This is, my God. This is what we should have gotten in the 90s. This is what we should have gotten in 97. The animation itself is 100% better than what we had in 1997. But people die. One major character dies. I mean, the first episode opens up, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but they're dropping out of a plane, and just Cyclops is optic blast just catching them. This really envelops who Cyclops should have been. He's not a wuss. He really is OD as an X-Men. And it really opens up a whole new world to people enjoying Cyclops. There's even a line where if you saw the X-Men live action movie, he's talking to Cable, and he's handing Cable an X-Men uniform. And Cable looks at it, and Cyclops goes, "Were you expecting black leather?"
It's great.
Line in itself just made it. You have Forge, like, you just got to sit there and watch this. This is a great, if you haven't watched it, X-Men 97, oh my God. It's wonderful to watch. That's all I got.
I may have to go watch it. Like, I tend to be a DC person, but it's been in my queue.
Yeah.
Number 2 for me, and this is where we start getting hate, because I just know it. You can't win, but I have to go with my gut here. And number 2 for the year for me, most people are going to put this at number 1, but it's only number 2. And you should be happy that at least getting number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. It only got number 2 for me.
I'm curious.
I enjoyed the movie for what it was. If you look back at my review, there was things I didn't like about it. I still stand that it's, as far as an actual movie, it's not a good movie. It's good fan service, but it's not a good movie. There's a difference between being a good movie, being well written, being well paced, having a good story. It doesn't have none of those things. But if you're willing to turn your brain off, it's a great experience. Do I think it's this like mecca of comic book movies? No, it's not. It's very by the numbers, actually. But the cameos and everything got me the number 2. At the end of the day, it made me smile. It did what it needed to do.
Okay. My number 2, Creature Commandos. Now, I will say I have not watched it, but the approach that James Gunn is taking to now the new DC animated universe, and I've caught a few spoilers of someone that showed up in the last episode, and the fact that if you voice a character now in the animated universe,
You're them in life.
Exactly. There's no more flip-flopping and we're going to hire this person to do the voice character, but this person is now the live action. If you now know that, go out, watch who is the voice actor to that one character that I'm talking about, and it's going to tell you who the live action version of should be based off of what James Gunn has given us. His approach to start off in animated, and the technology that he's actually using so that there's not a lot of difference between animated and live action is something interesting that that's why it's number 2, because I'm dying to see how certain of these characters are going to play in live action, because it's animated doesn't mean they're gone. It means we're going to see them at some point in time. And this James Gunn I'm just going to call it the Gunn DC universe, has me pretty excited as to how his approach to DC is going to be. I think he's onto something because it wasn't even done at Marvel.
No.
And Marvel's animated universe is all over the place. And that's what he realized, is that the DC animated universe is solid. So if you build off of that and you're going to say, my first project is animated, I'm going to give you that. And we've seen the trailer, a lot of fan service. I think that this is going to be a whole new era of comic book movies.
Couldn't agree more. I believe James Gunn is a force to be reckoned with because he is a product of both worlds at this point. He's somebody that Kevin Feige extremely trusts. They're friends. He's been under the learning tree of Kevin Feige. He's taking what worked and what didn't work at Marvel, and he's bringing it over to DC. And I think that he has his doubters, and I think there's a lot of Zack Snyder cultists out there who want to hate just to hate. But I think let the man cook, because I believe he's cooking up a masterpiece. And are there going to be misses along the way? Yes. No one makes perfect movies. No one makes perfect decisions. But I believe overall, we're at a much better footing with DC than we ever have been in the past.
Yes, I agree.
And Creature Commandos almost got my number 2 or number 1. Like I said earlier, I put it all the way at number 5, just for the simple fact that I could see why I would get hate if I put it too high. But my number 1 for best of 2024. And guys, prepare to already be on the keyboard. I'm ready for it. The Penguin. The Penguin is my number 1 of 2024. I know there's going to be some hate for that, but I don't care. The Penguin was such a great show. Notice I said show, not comic book show. It was such a great show. You take the Penguin out of it, and you still had a great crime drama.
Yes.
The characters, they made you feel for them. You know, I'm pretty sure we saw Victor Zatz's origin story of Victor. Like, I loved this show, and I think, and I don't think Victor's dead, by the way. I will say the Penguin, and it seems like you're agreeing. I can't hype up this show so much, man.
This show was, we waited and we thought we were going to get, I would think that a lot of people thought we were going to get something else. But what we got out of this show was so much deep character development.
Right.
This is what Gotham should have been.
By far.
Like, I see what they did, and Gotham was like the laying ground footwork for this show, because they took a lot of the stuff that was in the nitty, the gritty. It's just they went so much deeper down that rabbit hole of Oswald, and they never explained, is he really Oswald Cobblepot? We know he's Oswald, but they never really, explained his last name, which is fine with me. But they went such down a deep hole of explaining his loyalties, and he's loyal to you if you're loyal to him. He may fuck you over, but in the end, he's still going to be somewhat loyal to you.
I would say the ending kind of shows that's not true, though.
Is it? Because
that boy was so loyal to Oswald,
but he fucked up. Think about how many times he fucked up, but at the end, would Oswald been in that situation, had that boy done what he needed to have done? And my answer is, had he done what he had needed to have done, the whole ending of the show would have been different. Yes, he did, after figuring out, oh my God, I need to do this, or I need to do that. Like, you tell me to steal, I'm going to steal. I don't care, I just feel that he was somewhat of a dead weight to Oswald, and he had been dead weight. He was a means to an end after like episode 4. And Oswald already knew, I'm going to cap this kid, because this kid is just, you are causing, like, all right, we're going to bring you here, and I'm going to try to make sure that no one sees us, but I brought your mother somewhere that's still dangerous. Like, get out of Gotham. Go to, and no, you go to, and then even after you do that, you put Oswald in that situation, and you're thinking about leaving with your girlfriend. That's why he met the fate that he did. I think it shows, like, I felt for Oswald because he was just getting it from all ends during the whole show. But it gives me such more of an appreciation for the character of the Penguin at the end of the day. Like, I don't think I would just love to see a show like this for each one of Batman's rogues. If you do this, like if you give us a Riddler show and you don't do the Joker because he's just been overdone. But if you do a Riddler, if you do a Mad Hatter, Two-Face, Clayface,
Black Mask, like,
yeah, and we are going to get a Clayface movie,
right?
I'd rather see it in the form of a show. But again, this is Elseworld. That's the other thing about it.
Or it may not be. I don't know if you've heard about that, but there's a chance it may not be, that Matt Reeves' Batman may be folded in. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But is your number one Penguin, or is it something else?
No, my number one is Penguin.
Okay.
All through that show is phenomenal.
Yeah. But we want to know what you guys think. What's your top 5 of 2024? Do you agree with us? Is your list slightly different? Is it completely different? Let us know in the comments. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe and join the nerdy family. We love having you here. We love you all. And like I say, always, before we move on, I need to know you guys to know. I need you to understand that you need to keep it nerdy, guys. Keep it nerdy. Welcome back to Podcasting While Nerdy, and I'm that nerd AC. And if you tuned into the first part of this episode, you would know that I am joined by Uncle Black.
Yes, I am that Uncle Black. Welcome to the show. Look at my turtles. Look at my Funko Pops. You can't see my shirt, but
Spider-Man.
That's a whole different. If we were talking about, because that would have been on my top 5, but we're not talking about games, so I can't go there. But
maybe in next episode. But yeah, if you guys missed the first part of this episode, we talked about the top 5 best, and now we're about to get in the top 5 worst. So if you're interested in top 5 best, finish this video first, then go back and listen to the top 5 best. So without further ado, we're going to do our top 5 worst comic book and TV show properties of 2024, starting from number 5 and going all the way to number 1. Stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss it. All right, let's get started. My number 5 worst straight booty of 2024 is The Crow. That movie was bad. I normally love Bill Skarsgård, but this was just bad. Can you really blame it? It has the Crow curse. I believe that's actually a thing, but this movie never needed to be made. And you could tell, to me, it felt rushed. There was no point. It was cash grab, just like most remakes are. And yeah, I put The Crow at number 5. I utterly hated this movie.
Wow. That wasn't even on my... That movie was so bad, it wasn't even on my list. That's how bad that one was. Okay, I am about to catch a lot of hate.
At number 5.
Number 5, it's the lowest.
Yeah, it's for a lot of reasons I mentioned as far as my counterpoint.
A lot of them, this movie fucked up Marvel. Oh, excuse my language. This movie messed up Marvel. Marvel was in a clear path. And based off of how the original way they wanted to do this movie was that, hey, we're going to take all the extra scenes and we're just going to insert Deadpool into it. Might have worked. But the fact is that you brought back Blade and you just threw a whole new movie IP that you were going to do. And he just says, I'm the only Blade.
Oh, yeah, that was a ridiculous line.
Like, you really should not have put that through, because I was excited to see Mahershala Ali as Blade. And we now know it's not. No. I like what it's creating, that we might actually have a Gambit movie out of this. I just felt that it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but this was the movie that should have been done right when that Marvel brought back. And I don't know if you've seen some of the trailers for Captain America. They're now introducing adamantium.
They are.
Wolverine has adamantium. And continuity just kills me. I understand it's a different universe. I understand that's how you're going to bring in. So what I did like about it, Johnny Storm.
Oh, Johnny Storm was great.
That
That
was
was great.
Johnny Storm and Gambit were my two favorite parts of the movie. Cassandra Nova should have been saved for something else.
I said that in my review when me and Brandon 2K were talking about this. I said that, you know, they wasted that character. I also believe they kind of wasted Paradox too, but Casanova more so because there's so much good done there. I thought I thought her whole motives. My brother don't like me, or like it's just
It could have been saved for something else, and it got wasted on her trying to do what? Nothing. Like the way she got taken out, just to me was just a waste of a perfectly good X-Men character. That could have been like a second X-Men movie. You could have done a two-parter with Cassandra Nova. You could have that's where I had the problem of it. You didn't have your Juggernaut.
You could have had a Professor X variant to further show that relationship, or Legion maybe, or somebody.
Legion would have been perfect.
Legion would have been like to really get to the core of her family issues, her family baggage. Like you should have had
You could have maybe even given us a Rachel Summers.
Yeah.
A variant.
Right.
Like Cassandra Nova is not a variant. And that's where I was just like, no, she's not a variant. I understand where you're going with this, but she's not a variant, technically, if you look at, and then no Loki. And that really, you're talking about the TVA, but no Loki. And I think you really, to have had Loki and had Deadpool in one scene would have been great, maybe at the end of the film. Instead of, I enjoyed them showing us what, Johnny Storm said. But I think if you would have given us maybe like a third scene of Deadpool talking to Loki, because we know Loki's now the head of the TVA, like you just ignored that whole fact. And that's why it's my number 5. Great movie, but potential loss.
Number 4, as far as booty of 2024, it's Joker 2. I know I made it on to your best. If you go back, you'll see it's on Uncle Black's best. But it had to go on worst for me. And I loved the first Joker, but this was a step down for me. And when I took in the full picture of 2024, to me, there was no way that this could be on a best list. I feel like this was a movie that had no intention of being made until Todd Phillips was showed a whole bunch of money to make it. And I feel like this movie, going back to what I said about The Crow, I feel like it's another movie that was rushed and it's very much a cash grab. This movie, it's a step down. Also, I would say, like, this movie further proves to me that this Joker franchise is Joker in name only. It takes so much liberties with the IP. And granted, that's one beauty about the Joker is he really has no true backstory. I get that. But yeah, you could slap any other name onto this movie and not call it the Joker, and no one would have batted an eye. And there's a problem with that if you're trying to make a Joker movie. So yeah, it had to go on my worst, and it made its number.
I can see why. And I can't disagree. So my number 4, and it probably should have been higher. Oh, I'm going to get hate. Madam Webb.
Okay. Definitely belongs on the list somewhere, in my opinion.
You see what my
I feel like, and I don't want to jump the gun, but maybe Sony's about to get a lot of hate in this part.
Do you have enough time for bleeps? All right. So such a good concept. Just, oh my God. We have a fake Spider-Man?
Oh my goodness.
If you Spider-Man, if you know nothing of Spider-Man and you're watching this and maybe you've seen the anime, is that Spider-Man Noir taking out people? And
I thought it was what's the other one from the animated movie? Spider-Man 2020 or
2029 or 20. Yeah.
That's the vibe I got.
You think that, but no, this is just someone else who's got spider powers because he was hanging out in the freaking Amazon, and there's this whole tribe that has similar. What a weight, such potential, and you could have gone in so many different directions with Madam Webb. And
I
you
would
you
watch,
could have.
if I would have watched this in theaters, I would have been pissed. Luckily, I
I'm
went.
glad.
You know?
Me too. I mean, this was just straight dumpster fire of a movie. And when your own actors are poo-pooing on the movie and they're not like, what? No, that's trouble. And that movie was the beginning of the end for the Sony verse. I don't think, yeah, it's over. That's it. I can't even give it any more energy. That's it. Garbage.
I can't say I disagree. And a little bit of foreshadowing. Sony, I'm sorry, we're probably never getting a sponsorship, and I have to be okay with that because my number 3 is Venom: The Last Dance. Venom: The Last Dance made it to my number 3 on the worst movies, comic book properties of 2024. And it's for a lot of the same reasons I keep echoing, well, that you said about Madam Web. I have to echo about Venom: The Last Dance. This movie was so discombobulated. This movie was so, at this point, I have to echo the cash grab argument. It just is. Like, this movie had no direction, no clear vision. You could tell that they were just like, we have to get this out there. I felt that about Carnage as well. This franchise is dead. It's so dead. And I hope when they say Venom: The Last Dance, they truly mean it, because you're not invited next year to the
So I hope not.
Venom. And this disappoints me because I love Venom. I love Venom, the character. But from the very beginning, I felt this premise was wrong. You can't have Venom without Spider-Man.
Thank you.
Spider-Man, the Peter Parker Spider-Man is a core staple of Venom. You can't have Madam Web without a Spider-Man. You can't without a Spider-Verse. And I know Sony would say, well, we had one, but you didn't touch on it in Madam Web. You didn't touch on them in the Venom movies. You didn't touch on it in Craven. You didn't do none of that. You can't have these characters without a Spider-Man. Venom: The Last Dance needs to, be a waste to become a part of a Mandela effect. And this fever dream needs to stop.
Yeah. Wow.
Venom: The Last Dance is my number 3. And I know I went a little off. Sorry, Uncle Black. Take it away.
No, I'm going to echo that because I think we're going in the same direction. Have so many issues. Like, okay, the whole concept of it. The first one was fine. You had your chance to even envelop a Peter Parker. Why is Venom not walking around with the Venom emblem on him? Why? Because there's no Peter Parker. And that bothers me. Why is Venom not shooting any webs out of his wrist? Because there's no Peter Parker. I would have been happy if it would have been Joe St. Pierre who got the Venom symbiote before Eddie Brock, so you don't waste character development. If you would have went with Joe St. Pierre, he's the host. And then at the end of this movie, he would have met Eddie Brock in New York. It would have made sense.
And then passed it. Yeah.
Or, just show like a quick Peter Parker. Don't even have to show Peter Parker. Just someone at the Daily Bugle.
Right. That people can make that connection.
You can make that connection and then you're good. No, we don't even get that. We get a quick Easter egg at the end of a Spider-Man movie and then they don't develop on it. And then you waste She-Venom, you waste Carnage, which great concept. But I just think, not for me anymore. Like, stop. Yeah, I know you're trying to build a rogues, but I'm glad that they did not even go. Well, anyway, let's go to number 2. Because you know what my number 2.
So number 3 is Venom for you too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was.
Oh, wow. So we're going to differ here because you've already said it. My number 2 is Madam Web.
Okay.
Number 2 is Madam Web. Much for a lot of the same reasons about Venom. Sony, I don't hate you. I just hate your 2024 and your 2023 and your 2022. But I don't hate you. Number 2 is Madam Web for a lot of the same reasons Uncle Black said. I have to echo those. Everything I'm going to say is just going to be repeating. So just rewind a little bit and listen to Uncle Black's rant. And he put in my voice, and then you got what I am saying about why it's my number 2. What's your number 2?
Craven.
Interesting. Okay.
Again, did you Rhino? Really? Character.
Goodness. Yeah.
All right. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Great actor. Sony, you could have just waited. You could have just sat back, waited. And just said he was going to play Craven the Hunter. Like a matter of fact, we know we're going to get a Spider-Man 4. Why not have him in the movie?
Have Craven without Spider-Man.
You can't have Morbius without Spider-Man. You can't have Madam Web without Spider-Man. You can't. Have they not learned their lesson as to this is why these movies aren't selling? Because you're just throwing out names and you're not even doing it fan service at this point in time. Like at least Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, and I get that Craven is somewhat supposed to be like an origin story. It's supposed to be pre-Spider-Man. Okay, but the execution was it was terrible. And you're falling before you even stand with these properties, just because you're getting so far removed. It's going back to the Joker argument too. You're kind of falling before you even stand, and like, yeah, I totally get why you have Craven at number 2. Any more to add on that?
No, they just need to be flushed down the toilet. I'm sorry. Like
So
Sonyverse.
yeah, and they announced that they're done. At least they're saying they are. Hopefully,
They're saying that they're done, and they're saying that I mean, the rumors that I've heard is that they're going to work more closely with Marvel. But stop. Just stop lying. You're going to be surprised when you hear my number 1.
I think you're going to be surprised when you hear my number 1.
Okay.
Before I get into my number 1, we just went on some pretty epic rants on this list. If you like that sort of thing, if you like these nerd rants, we're going full force with them in 2025. In 2025, we're debuting a new segment called Nerd Out, where our guests will have a 90-second uninterrupted to rant about whatever is on their mind. And we don't know beforehand what they're ranting about.
Oh, that's awesome.
90 seconds go on the clock, and they can go off. These are going to be faces you know, if you're local in the Wichita, Kansas area. Faces you don't know, faces that everybody may know. So it could be local celebrities, your traditional celebrities. Everybody under the sun is going to be able to be on this show. And we are stacking our roster for 2025. We pretty much got every month planned at this point. And there's only 1 month left that somebody can hop on. We got one guest a month. And our first guest is very much a local celebrity here in Wichita. He started his own business. He's African American. I'll give you some clues. He's an African American male who's very heavily in the STEM music, in the STEM scene. He started his own business based around STEM. He travels the country talking to schools about STEM and getting young minorities and young kids in general excited about science, excited about STEM.
Nice.
And he's going to come on and be our first one to go into the hot seat to nerd it. And he has a lot of opinions. When I was asking him to be on the show, little tease, I asked him, could Tony Stark make it in today's STEM community? Or are there people smarter than him nowadays? And he had a lot to say about that. So be sure to stay tuned and up to date on our socials, where we're about to drop when this is going to air. And I was talking a little bit, I'll go back in the first part and a little bit through messages. And I think he's very intrigued. And I think there's going to be a lot of exciting conversations happening with this guest. So without further ado, let's go to my number 1 word of 2024. And that is Craven. It's Craven. It's Craven. I think you gave it too much credit putting it lower than 1. I really struggled between 2 in the 1 slot that could be interchangeable between Madam Web and Craven. You could flop them. I did a few times when I was making this list. But I felt Craven really had to get the number 1 spot. And for a lot of the reasons you mentioned when you were talking about Craven. But more so, Craven really shows that Sony hasn't learned. Craven is a test study. They should have saw the failure of Madam Web and really pivoted and made changes with Craven. But you can tell by watching Craven that Sony does not give an F about their viewers. They don't care about comic book properties. They don't care about lore. They don't care about, well, I'm going to say continuity, like through line. They don't care. And Craven shows this. Sony does not care about you. They don't care about your feelings about these characters. They don't care about the relationships you built with these characters. They don't care about none of that. All they care about is this. Money is what they care about. And they're shooting themselves in the foot by not seeing the forest through the trees. And Craven is a test study of this. Number one is Craven.
So I'm going to echo something that you said about Craven. They should have learned from DC when DC pulled Supergirl.
Yeah.
They pulled the movie because, was it Supergirl or was it Batgirl? Batgirl.
Oh,
sorry.
Batgirl what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was Batgirl. But they also pulled Supergirl. They pulled Batgirl because they saw how atrocious it was of a movie. And even though it ran, they were just like, no, this movie's never going to come out. And they did the smart thing. They may have lost the movie. They could write it off. And that's what Sony should have done after Madam Web with Craven. And they probably should have done that with Venom, Last Dance. However, I am going to poo on DC for a second because they too should have done that with Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth. As good as it was, when did that movie release? Originally, a three-parter. It's a three-parter. It releases in January. By that point in time, you already know who's taking over. James Gunn. Why not hold on it? You have enough time to hold on it and redo the voice acting. Why are you stopped? You already canceled God knows what else. So at this point in time, you should have just said, we're going to put a halt to, we're not going to put anything out. We'll let everybody wait for Creature Commandos to come out and not put out anything else before. Doesn't matter when this is slated. At this point, how much money are you going to lose? You already have paid your actors. So you have your Superman. Dave Hornswet could have done Superman. All of them. It's one of those things of you might as well just wait until after Superman drops to drop that movie and drop it in a three-part. You could have sat on it for years instead of dropping it before your start, because what use was that to anything that James Gunn is doing? It was just a wasted opportunity.
Well, it's kind of like Aquaman too, right? That dropped after we knew James Gunn was taking over.
And Blue Beetle.
Right.
But we knew we were losing Aquaman. We knew that James Gunn said, well, no, I'm keeping Blue Beetle, but from what I'm seeing, Blue Beetle's not going to be live action. The next Blue Beetle's going to be animated. But it's one of those things of you've taken over. At this point, you need to sort your house and say, this is what's coming out and this is what's not. And let's just hold. Let's just really hold stuff until I think fans would have appreciated Crisis on Infinite Earths if they would have waited a little bit of time and just gotten Creature Commandos. Because you need a clean house. I mean, what are you going to do with Harley Quinn, in my opinion? Are you going to Elseworlds that? Or are you literally going to hire, what's her name, to be Harley Quinn? Because Harley Quinn is not a bad show. It's just you now really have to go on your word of anything that's out there that's animated. Are you going to hire that actor? And that voice actor have the chops to play the actual physical actor.
To, like you said, label it Elseworlds, which James Gunn may be like, Harley Quinn is an Elseworlds thing. He could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you going to ask? Well, in my opinion, you better Elseworlds Peacemaker then.
Which he's always said is not.
That's all I'm saying. Rick Flag.
Yeah, that's where I believe James Gunn has made a questionable decision. I believe like he said that Peacemaker season 2 is canon, but Peacemaker season 1 is going to be cherry picked. And I think you either take it all or you don't. And because you start confusing your audience. And I'm not saying you can't get them to understand, but especially for the common moviegoer or the common watcher who's not listening to podcasts like this, who's not into this stuff like we are, you're going to like completely screw up their mind because they're already confused. They're like, a lot of people already think Pattinson is part of this universe.
And he technically right now is not.
Right. A lot of people still think that Aquaman is Jason Momoa. Like, there's all this like you have to correct and train the audience to understand that I believe you're muddling the waters when you don't have hard break.
Yeah. And that's where my problem, that's why that movie is number one. That's why that series of movies is number one. Because Momoa is now Lobo.
Yep.
No, and you know what? I missed out on an opportunity for a top 5 on TV series, but that's okay because that last season of that show was kind of really good. Superman and Lois. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I was kind of sad that it ended, but
I'm glad it did because, but you see what they did is they cut that dry. And that's where, if you're going to do it to that show, you need to just stop and give us nothing for a while. And DC hasn't. It's almost like they're not respecting us as fans. And I get James Gunn is doing a lot of fan service with what he's going to do, but you have to stop and let us just froth at the mouth and wait. We will appreciate it more than if you keep shoving crap down our throats. And I would have waited for this Crisis on Infinite Earths a lot later because it needs to fit in somewhere canonically with what you're building rather than, oh, no, it came out in July, but it doesn't really fit in with what we're doing because we're starting anew.
No, I totally see what you're saying. And even though I had it part 2 on my best, I see where you're coming from by having on your worst just because of the precedents it sets. I don't know. I guess I feel like, you have all these popular pundits out there like Grace Randolph and stuff like that who hammer this point through that there should have been a hard break, and I do agree with that. But I also do agree that just because somebody, throws a bunch of bad apples into a pot doesn't mean that all the apples are bad. And do you just throw out the whole pot just because there's some bad apples in there? So I get where James Gunn is coming from. You're like, no, I'm very proud of what we did in Peacemaker season 1. I want to keep these through lines. I'm really proud of what I did in the Suicide Squad. I think that could work in my universe. I want to keep this. And, we have Rick Flag Sr. and Creature Commandos, and you said you haven't seen it yet, right?
No.
But one of the very first conversations between Amanda Waller and Rick Flag Sr. is about his son,
Okay.
And so it's mentioned, and they bring that up.
Okay.
So I get why you want to keep those things, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I also get where it's much better just to have a clean break.
Exactly. But you know what? We better get a calendar man out of this.
You're speaking my language, man. You're speaking my...
You better give us somewhere along the line. Just people don't like Calendar Man was just epic, and it's just like these little nuances of characters that DC has. And Calendar Man is one of them. It's almost like the leader for DC. I mean, for Marvel, the leader, which finally getting after 16 years, you better do him some fan service because the leader is like one of the best Hulk villains out there. And I'm hoping he's a bigger villain than Red Hulk in that movie because he deserves that, because he is that much better than the Red Hulk. So, I mean, again, Calendar Man needs that fan service. There's so many characters out there. I have a good feeling about what James Gunn, I feel that if you would have just paused it and given it to us a little bit later, people would have appreciated it. And listen, you don't have to revoice every Superman. At that point, I would have thrown money at Cavill and said, hey, can you voice this Superman? And Tyler Hoechlin, hey, can you voice that Superman for us? Why not? And don't give us a corn sweat, but just give us those two guys. And people, the fan service would have been there to say, we're closing out that episode of DC, and then this is where we're going forward. But no, they didn't pause. And I think that is where there's a lot of exhaustion with DC, where we don't have that exhaustion with Marvel, because how many people are now going to be confused that they're going to see Jason Momoa? I mean, he's going to be under makeup, but how many people are going to be confused when they go see a Jason Momoa movie as Lobo?
And luckily that's coming out, I think, late 2026, but still, yeah. I see your point. But yeah, that was our top 5 worst. And we went on a little tangent there at the end. But that was our top 5 worst. And we want to know what your top 5 worst properties of 2024 are. Let us know in the comments. And if you're not so much of a nerd like us, there's a lot of things that end up being comic book IPs, right? You could talk about Wicked, and Wicked has been made into a comic book series. Don't believe me? Look it up. Like there's a bunch of things that you could put and still be part of this discussion. So let us know in the comments your top 5 worst movies and TV shows of 2024. Before we let you go, have to let you know that we enjoy having you here. And if you want to be up to date, please like, comment, and subscribe. And turn on that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We got a lot of cool things coming to you in 2025. I told you about the Nerd Out segment, but there's a lot more. Speaking of things from talking about the past, and once again, Uncle Black, I'm really glad you're here, and I'm excited that most likely you're going to see more of him in the future. But speaking of the past, though, shout out to the locker room. Talking to them, you brought up Calendar Man, so I had to bring it up. They make an awesome Calendar Man drink. They make awesome drinks in general. And we are discussing with them about things we might do in 2025. Maybe a live episode again, like I did in the past. So, and Uncle Black is laughing because it was a great time. We had a blast with that. So,
incredible whole drink.
So, be on the lookout for things like that. If you're local in the Wichita area and you see me around, don't be a stranger. Let us know what you like, what you dislike. If you're not from the Wichita area, in the comments, don't be a stranger. Let me know what you like and what you dislike and how we can improve in 2025. We took a lot of your advice in 2024. We branded our logo, new pics, new me. We're off to a great start. We're very excited. We're bringing in more talent and more personalities so you can be around the water cooler with different people and that you more relate to. And that you don't just have to look at me and Brandon all this.
Oh, yeah.
So with that said, keep it nerdy. Uncle Black, do you have anything to say?
So, back in the old day, I'll keep this clean from all of us, all of you. Drink up, nerds.
I love it. That's something that we're going to have to bring back for sure.
Just water.
I believe.
Drink it up. Oh, my God, I love water. I would not be drinking alcohol No, I would not be walking. No. But yes, thank you for having me. Let's see if we can get another nerd in here. I think I got someone, if you ever decide to talk about Transformers, be it figures, movie, yeah. Or even if you're talking about upcoming comic book movies of 2025 and 2026, I would love to be a conversation about that too. But thank you for having me. It's been a great time. Oh man, I miss this. I really do. And be sure, if I could plug myself, I'm just gaming right now, so you're just going to watch me game. But I am thinking about some stuff, and make sure to check out. There is a new logo for the Uncle Black show. Again, it's AKA Uncle Black. It's Uncle Black, AKA Blackster Thomas, AKA Incognito. And I'm not wearing any merch because I haven't made it yet, but I do have a new logo. But be sure to check us out when we get our stuff sorted out. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. And I'm excited for our fans of old and new to be introduced to you and for more of this to come.
Yeah, definitely.
So before I totally let you go, I have to ask, so your gaming, let's talk about that for a minute. Is that mainly done on Twitch, or what's your platform of choice there?
Well, my platform of choice is actually TikTok. It's a lot easier until I find a place where I could do both at one time. Sometimes I'll dabble and go on to Twitch, but most of the time I am on TikTok, and most of the time it is later on at night. I'll go on for like 3 hours. Like I did I played all of Spider-Man 2 on TikTok until I finished it. It does take me some time, just because of constraints of sitting there gaming a whole game and trying to get it mostly complete. But I did finish all of Spider-Man 2 on TikTok. And like I said, I think as a filler, it is going to be Flight Simulator. I don't know. I might jump back to shooters with Black Ops 6, or I might just do Assassin's Creed. There's that new one that's coming out, or Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead. I don't know where I'm going with the video games. Or sometimes I let the manager go and I will stream her playing, like I streamed her playing God of War. And she just got Silent Hill 2 for PS5. So just watch. It's always a great watch. If it's her playing, you're going to get some adult content of language or getting game rage. With me, it's not as bad. You'll get the more, like when I was playing Spider-Man, I was actually trying to find the rats to talk to them because I actually have pet rats, but I find the silly stuff. Well,
I thought you meant street rats.
no. I was looking for the street rats in the game.
Okay.
I did find them, but I was talking to them like they were my pets.
You say TikTok's your platform of choice. So how do you feel about the what's your next steps of the TikTok ban? I mean, there may not be an option here in about a week.
Oh my God, don't remember. If that's the case, I'm gonna go back to Twitch and YouTube. Then I won't have a choice, and then I will go back full time on Twitch, full time on YouTube, and then I probably will open up an Uncle Black channel on Facebook, just to streamline everybody into one place rather than multiple places. But you can still probably find me under the Entertainment Nerd News umbrella. There, we do have one of our other co-hosts that is gaming on there on YouTube, so I'll give him a shout out. He is gaming, I forget what he's gaming, but he is gaming on YouTube under that umbrella. I just found that TikTok is a better niche for me than the YouTube, where I get a lot more interaction on TikTok than Twitch or any other platform. But if I could find a end-all, be-all of a platform that'll put me out on all, you will find me out on all. But just stay tuned, and if TikTok goes goodbye, then it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. I better cash out sooner rather than later.
Speaking of Twitch, be sure to follow Brand 2K on Twitch. The other half, podcasting raw nerdy. She could not be here today. If you're not aware, in Kansas right now, we're under blizzard conditions. And I just got lucky enough that our power did not go out, but he was not so lucky here in Kansas. So if you've been patient on TikTok, there's a whole side of TikTok right now where people are like, it's basically the apocalypse in Kansas, and they're not far from the truth. It's pretty bad here.
That bad? Sorry to hear that.
They've shut down all major highways here until I think Tuesday, tentatively. So yeah, we're not going anywhere in our homes. So you may get more of me. But Brandon had his top 5. I'll be sure to share it on social media, or he'll share it. And you'll be able to know where he stands. So follow Brandon 2K on Twitch, and he's slowly going to get back into it. Send him positive vibes because he is going back to school. Very proud of that dude. So you may be seeing a lot of alternate co-hosts who become more and more familiar with this channel, and I'm very excited about that. Uncle Black being one. The guest that I mentioned about the Nerd Out segment has said that he's willing to step in as a full co-host during that episode. So it may be a 3-person panel during that. So a lot of cool things going on. But once again, we love you. You keep it nerdy. Drink up. Later.
Later, dudes.